So next four examples. First one is the quantity x minus 7 squared equals 6. So I'm at the point where I need to undo things. Well, I've got to get rid of that squared. So to get rid of the squared, I take the square roots of both sides. So I get x minus 7 equals plus or minus the square root of 6. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And I get x equals 7 plus or minus the square root of 6. Okay? That is actually x plus the square root of 6 and 7 minus the square root of 6. Okay? One thing I want to show you is if you get something that looks like this, the number in front of the plus or minus is your line of symmetry. Okay? And then your x-intercepts are going to be plus the square root of 6 away from it and minus the square root of 6 away from it. I've already shown you that when we did the overview of Chapter 9. But just remember that fact. Step 1 of this next one. I have 5 times x minus 2 squared equals 70. So first thing I want to do is get rid of the 5 by dividing both sides by 5. That leaves me with x minus 2 quantity squared is 14. Then I need to take the square roots of both sides. I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus the square root of 14. And then add 2 to both sides. X equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 14. Notice over here I broke it up into 7 plus the square root of 6, 7 minus the square root of 6. I don't need that for a final answer. I just want you to realize that this is two separate numbers. Next example, I need to undo multiplying by 3. So that leaves me with x plus 14 squared is 7. Take the square roots of both sides. X plus 14 equals plus or minus 7, square root of 7. Then subtract 14. And that leaves me with negative 14 plus or minus the square root of 7. Again, negative 14 would be the line of symmetry for my graph. Final example. Multiply both sides times 3/4 to get rid of that fraction. So on the left, I'm left with x minus 6 squared. On the right, 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. Take the square roots of both sides. So I get x minus 6 is plus or minus the square root of 15. Add 6 to both sides. X equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 15. Okay, again, the only time that you can solve an equation by taking square roots is if you factored out a perfect square, like I did in the last 4 examples, or if when you write it in standard form, there is no b term. Okay? So that's the only time that you can solve by taking square roots. And parentheses, which I called grouping symbols, exponents and roots. Multiplication and division. And then addition, subtraction. When you are solving an equation, you work backwards in the order of operations. And when you do one step, you need to start at the bottom again. See if you have to do that, start with the addition and subtraction again. So let's look at this second example. On this side, do I have any addition or subtraction that's outside of any of the parentheses? No. Do I have any multiplication or division? Yes, I do. So I need to do that to get rid of it first. And that's what I did. That left me with this. So what's the next thing I have outside of the parentheses? Well, I go up. I can't do the parentheses yet because of the grouping symbols will be the last thing I do. Well, I'm going to take my roots of both sides by undoing that. That leaves me with this. Then I start over again. Oh, I've got some addition or subtraction that I have to get rid of. So then I move it over. So that's how you solve by taking square roots. You're going to have a half sheet of paper for doing the examples to turn in tomorrow at the beginning of class. The half sheet of paper covers the following problems. Page 597, guided practice 10, 11, and 12. So if you were not in class to get the half sheet of paper, those are the 3 problems that you're going to do to turn in to show me that you know how to solve these problems after watching the video.